what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do the main wires in, and I'll do the motor wires out. So main wires in, if I flip the board over, now keep the board that way over. So I've got negative is on the bottom. So I'll just take this out the way so that I can see. So there's the negative wire that I'm going to want. That's going to go onto the bottom, so I can trim that back a little bit. Just going to through hole these into the board, so they're pretty quick. My shaky hand's punishing me today. So battery negative into the ground. Should fit on the board. There you go, nice, covered the end, sucked through. And that's that one. That now fits nicely down into there. And then I've got to put the battery positive on. Again, cut that to length. So that's nice tight joint. Sit in there like that. And now we can put the switch components in, and then we've just got the motors to do. So switch line through there. So there you go, there's connections on the board. So negative, positive, again marked, so just remember which way around they are, don't get those wrong, because that will cause you problems. Negative is on the same side as the switch, and then you've got the two switch lines, and then we've got the motor positive and the motor negative. Now when you do the motor negative, there's one thing to remember, is that you want to take it through from the bottom, take it over and put it onto the tag here. There's just a quirk of this version of the board. If you can get you need to expose enough wire to get it onto the tag of the MOSFET, just in case you get a current surge and there isn't a big enough copper blob on this board to take a big surge. So you just need to bear that in mind. So now when you set up your wiring, you can put your loom in here. We can test fit the motors, make sure that they sit down nicely over the wiring. Again, you don't want to be squeezing these up. If you're crushing everything, then you're going to likely cause a short, which will give you trouble. So I've got to put the motor negative through from there, from underneath, like that, which is going to be awkward because it's going to want to come back on itself, because it's got to all sit into there like that. So I want to come from that way. Trim that a little bit. And then I've got to make a long tail on this one so that it comes right the way through. Now another trick when you set this up is to just scour this a little bit. Use a little bit of emery cloth and just roughen that up. I'm just going to use this flat file just to give a better surface for it to adhere to. And then I'm just going to tin this a little bit so that I've got a good solder blob to adhere to when I push the wire through from the back. Obviously that's soaking up a lot of heat because it's a heat sink, so and then get the solder good and runny on there. So there's a little solder tag now to go through, so when we push that through from the back, we'll go all the way through onto the cable. Just on the motor negative, all the other ones are fine, they don't mind, it's just that one. Okay, so now I've popped that through, I'm just going to put a little bit of it on here first, just to get that to solder down to the tag there. You don't have to worry about it touching the body of the capacitor if it does that, because that's insulated anyway. Just watch out for the diode, sorry. Just watch out for the legs of the diode. You don't want to touch the diode leg if you can avoid it. Then belt and braces on the board, spread the load out a little bit, and now all I've got to do is just attach the last connection, which is the motor positive. That part of the board is basically just straight through, it doesn't actually do anything. All the switching's an end FET, so it's all on the negative channel. That's done. So that's all in there, and you can see now that that fits pretty neatly in there. It's all nicely out the way, it's not in the way of the flywheels, there's no motor wires, there's no like dirty wiring getting in the way. Then I can refit this. The only thing I've got to do now is put an XT60 on the end, and then what we'll do is we'll run the test pack off it and see how it works, and if that all works then hopefully we'll be golden. If that explodes, which I have had one blow up because of the tag issue that I gave you a little hint about earlier, I have burnt out a couple of these boards. I will admit that they're not perfect in my opinion yet. They're getting there, and they're good for most things, but I am quite clumsy and I'm not a very good assembler. I like to assemble everything myself. So if that explodes, I'll run through how to fix that as a second part. Obviously the new version of these boards should come out which will solve that problem. This was a very early one, and we'll see what happens. Right, I'm just going to show you this. Here's one of the things that's the most annoying about this design that I think is really shitty. So, if we look at the cage, remember I put that screw port back in and tightened that screw up earlier. As I tighten that screw down, the cage here has actually got a crack in it. And both of the ones I've done of this have ended up with a crack in, and the cage here has also got a crack in. So, before I've even used the thing, a major structural component that holds the flywheels in place has already been damaged. So that's really crap. It just shows you the low quality plastic that's used in this, that I didn't put any strength, any force on the wheels, because obviously you push on the bottom of the motor bell to fit those, and the stock wheels I cut off so that I didn't damage the back here by pulling on them. So I can't really see a way of doing that mod without actually cracking the cage. So the fix for that, I've put some CA glue in the crack, and then you can put a bit of Devcon around the edge, but you've got to be careful where it's near a screw port. So if you're doing that mod, just bear in mind that that will happen to your cage. And it probably, if you swap the motors, it will definitely happen to your cage. So there's a tip on the Worker Hurricane. Garbage plastic for the cage. Okay, we're into the final stage now, where what I've got to do is I've just got to test everything. Hopefully it'll work and it won't burn the MOSFET out, which is what happened when I made the loom the first couple of times because of the problem with those motor tags. So what I've got is, here's the original battery tray, and what I've done is I've soldered on the back here some more wire and some XT60s, and the idea is that that can then sit straight back into the stock like that, and the XT60 will just about slide down the little gap in the grip. Again, this has been thoroughly tested because I used this in a game this weekend just to make sure it worked. And the beauty of that is, obviously, if you want to go lower power, you can drop the power down a little bit. You can even run it on AA rechargeables if you want to. These wheels are coming off. I've got the black wheels to go on. A word about those, the best thing to do is to chop them off at the top here and then just pull them off and then fit the new wheels hot, because the cage is really weak. So bear that in mind if you're doing the mods to those. They're very hard to get on and off. I'm sure somebody's got a better method, but I'm lazy. So, moment of truth. Arming switch, obviously, that's the normal position for the trigger. So, arming switch on. That noise is a screw here, hang on. There you go, look. Working really nice. And the trigger. And then I'll plug a 2S LiPo in now. Moment of truth. Now, anyone who's wondering what LiPo you want for this, you want an 840C, as small as you can get. You can get a hybrid in there. There's an LIHV that goes in, a 500 LIHV, but I prefer an 800 straight for this. Right, here we go. LiPo in. Here we go. I'll just hold on to that. And then obviously you've just got the trigger safety there, cuts the feed. So there you have it. So now all I've got to do is change the wheels out, bolt it all up, and then it's ready to shoot. So that's how you do the MOSFET mod for the Worker Hurricane. It doesn't fix all of its problems, but it certainly makes a much neater and more powerful loom.